What you guys can do for me, first of all, is get out that exercitia sheet. And here's what I want to do with that. First of all, I don't want you to be afraid. That was not a test. It was not an exam I gave you. It was information for me. It tells me, oh, they understand this, or they do not understand this, and we need to work on it more, okay? So what I need, I'm going to collect them. I'm just going to take them home with me, because what I want to do today in class is read Colloquium 5 together. We're going to see if we can read the whole thing together and work our way through it and talk about what they're saying. And then I think I was going to move on, but I think based on what I find out on your exercise sheets, it will tell me whether or not we can move on. So you can just send it down to me.
I was in a rush.
Okay.
I finished mine.
Okay. See, my problem is if we don't bring it to class, now I don't know. But I can't plan for next week now. Do you see what I mean? So, I'm trying to make you feel bad, but I am trying to make you feel bad a little bit. Preston, do you have yours? Okay. Well, I'm going to take the ones that people that have, and they're going to be the pace setters. You guys get to be the pace setters for the class. If Anne and Bryn understand, we'll move ahead. And if Anne and Bryn don't understand, no pressure, ladies. No. Honestly, please, I just beg of you, please do these and bring them back, because I'm hinging what we do for the next 2 weeks on what I see here, and now I can't. But I will think about it, and we'll see how Bryn and Ann. You could scan it. You could scan it, or you could take a photo with your phone of the paper, and you could email me the photo, and I could see it that way. So if you were able to do that, that would be very helpful. But you'd need to do it like today or tomorrow, right? Don't do it next Monday, because then I don't have time to go over it before I plan. So anyway, I'm going to go over these. I may take a look at them like at the end of class here, but I want to read Colloquium 5 together. That's how I want to spend the majority of our time. So everybody grab your Colloquia Personarum book, and let's just work our way through. Let's highlight some of the things that we've learned in this chapter. Mostly we learned some prepositional phrases, right, with this new ablative. And we also learned how to give a command to more than one person. While I'm reading, let's go ahead and have this on the board to remind us. Nominative case, which is the subject, us, in singular, plural, I, We have the genitive case, which is possessive, I, aurum, aurum. We have the accusative case. Does anybody remember what the accusative case does? What is it? Yeah, what is its job? Like this means it's the subject. This direct object. Boom. That's exactly what I wanted. Or, os, And now we have this lovely new ablative, which we have learned is used in object, that's a parentheses, not a C, object of the preposition. And we have o, with a little line over it, o, and is. Thank you so much, Latin and the Romans, for giving us the same ending in every gender. Oh, and by the way, this is masculine, feminine, neuter, masculine, feminine, neuter. Okay, I think we're good. We'll have those on the board if we want to check what something is doing. But let's just read Colloquium 5 together and find out what's going on. It is on page 14. It is only these 2 pages, so I feel like the chances are very, very high of us getting through the whole story. Personae in fabula sunt Julius, Davus et Medus. Julius est Dominus, ita Julius est dominus, et medus et davus sunt servi. Medus est malus servus. Medus sumit numos, e saculo domini non est bonum, est a fur, he's a thief, fur. Et medus discedit, non ad est, medus ab est. Cur, quia videt baculum. Julius habet baculum, et verberat malum servum. Ita medus timet. Oh, Domine, non verbera, non verberare me. Timet. Intelligitis, do you understand? Maybe not everything I said, but you got the gist of it. That's the backstory, right? All right. In opido tusculo magnum forum est. Forum est locus in opido, the forum, right? Are you familiar, like maybe with the Roman forum? Maybe not. Have you ever been to a college campus and they have a big rectangular area? Sometimes they call it the quad, because often it's a big rectangular shape, and there's buildings all around it. Some universities have a quad. It's just a big open space surrounded by buildings, and it's sort of the marketplace. It's the meeting place. Yeah. Apparently, if you go to Rome today, parts of the Roman Forum from 2,000 years ago, still there with the buildings, but a lot of the buildings have been removed or fallen down. And so usually in a Roman town, they had a rectangular space called the Forum. That's just its name, the Forum. And it's surrounded by, like public buildings, like law courts and stuff like that. And there might be shops and things like that. So people gather in the Forum. All right, bene. In opido tusculo magnum forum est. In foro est templum antiquum. Non est templum novum, est templum antiquum. Anybody, does that word look like a word that you know, antiquum? It looks very much like the English word, antiquum. Maybe you don't know how to spell this word, and that means it might not look like it. But are you familiar with the word antique? Doesn't it? It's got this weird Q in it. You're like, why does it have a Q? Why did we put a Q in this word? Because antiquum, ancient. Although usually our antiques aren't ancient. You know what I mean? When you go to the antique store, it's not ancient. It's just kind of old, but so and in this case, it doesn't mean ancient for them. It just means old. It's not a brand new built temple, right? Templum, temple.
It's not an ancient temple.
Yeah, it would be now, wouldn't it? Okay.
If it's still around.
And in pictura est templum et forum. In Julius in foro est. Julius est in foro cum quator servis. Julius habet quator servos cum se. Neque medus in iis est. Medus non est in servis qui sunt cum Julio. Medus ab est. Ubi est medus? Nescio. Oh, that's the next sentence. Ubi est medus? Medus quoque in opido tusculo est. Neque is in foro est cum domino. Neque medus Merus non est in foro cum domino, sed sine domino in templo. Mimenistis. Aemilia in capitulo. Aemilia est in atrio, in peristilo. Non memini. Sine Julio. Right. Julius est in opido. Aemilia est in villa. Aemilia est in villa sine Julio. Julius non ad est. Bene, bene. Et Julius est in foro tusculo. Medus ab est. Medus est in tusculo sine Julio. Sine domino. Right? He's without his master. Is he supposed to be without his master? I don't think slaves are just supposed to run off to Tusculum. Pretty sure. Unless they've been told. All right. Medus solus est in magno templo vacuo. Templum est vacuum. Nulli viri sunt in templo. Templum est vacuum. Sacus est vacuus. Est vacuus. Templum est vacuus. Medus est in templo. Nullus. Nemo, no one. Nemo est in templo. Solus medus in templo est. Quid agit servus Julii in templo? Quid agit? Cantat? La la la. Minime. Dormit? Minime. Quid agit in templo? Numos numerat. Unus, duo, tres. Habet multos numos. Et in templo medus numerat numos. Medus. Quot numi sunt in saculo meo. Quot decem, quinque, quot. Unus, duo, tres, quator, quinque, sex, septem, octo, novem, decem, nonagenta numi. Est magnus numerus. Yes.
How do the slaves count? I didn't think that, or did they just have to make that?
Well, that is a very good question. In case for recording, the question is, how did the slaves count? When we think of slavery, we think of American enslaving of blacks. That is not what slavery in the ancient world was like. These people were captured in war. Like sometimes your slave might be a doctor. Your slave might have been a lawyer. Your slave isn't necessarily uneducated. They were just someone, sometimes they were sold for debt. Like if you owed money and you couldn't pay it, they could sell you as a slave to recoup the money. So you might be a professional, you might be a very highly educated person, and now you're a slave. Does that make sense? And for us, that wasn't really, in America, that wasn't really the case. And there were laws in some places about teaching your slaves, to read and do things. But in the ancient world, your slave may be way smarter than you and way more capable than you. It just happened that they were captured or sold or in debt. And actually, much later in this book, we won't get there this year. Much later in this book, Metis tells his backstory of how he came to be a slave. Yeah, Amelia.
So, if they were captured in war, does that mean like the slaves were like not like say it's like they're Athenian, the slaves could be like Greeks or
And I think we already learned it's medus est Graecus. Medus est Graecus. He is a Greek slave. So what did he do before he was a slave? Well, we find out in a much later chapter. But sorry. But it is an excellent question, because we tend to think of, oh, the slaves are the lower class, uneducated group. That isn't true for most of the history of the world.
Lower class that can't buy anything.
Yeah. They are lower class now because they're not citizens anymore. But okay, excellent question. All right. Medus habet non agenta numos. Oh, ecce, vidite, ecce non agenta numi. Oh, magna pecunia mea est. Oh, ego habeo magnam pecuniam. Okay. I'm going to read that line again for effect. Ecce non agenta numi, magna pecunia mea est. Mea est. Respondet templum vacuum. Medus dicit, mea est. Mea est. Est echo. Est echo. Medus, quid? Num dominus ad est? Esne Julius? Qui dicit mea est? Quid est? Sed, so medus, quid num dominus ad est? Ad est. Respondet templum vacuum. Sed, solus est servus in templo. Nullus dominus verba eius audit. Dominus non audit verba. Non in templo, sed in foro est Julius. Quid agit Julius in foro Tusculano? Dominus servum suum quaerit. Dominus quaerit servum medum. Ubi est medus? Medus est malus servus. Verbero medum. Ubi est, Julius quaerit. Ubi est, quaerit servum sum. Julius imperat, quaere medum. Dave, quaere. Quaere, you don't know the word veni, quaere medum. What does he want him to do? Quaere medum.
Find better.
Yeah, look for him. Go look for Medus. Dawes, go look around for Medus. He must be hiding here somewhere. Quaere medus. What would he say if he wanted all four of the servants with him to go find Medus? Would he say quaere? What would he say instead? Do you know? Let's talk about that for a minute. Instead, he said to one servant, quaere. How do we make him say it to all the servants? What would I change it to? Yeah, that's a very good answer in Latin. Change the ending is almost always going to be the right answer. Quaerete. In this case, it would be quaerete. Quaerete medum. If he asked all four of them to do it. But in this case, quaere, Dave, quaere medum. He just asked one person to do it. Davus, ubi. Julius, quaere eum in templo. Medus est in templo. Et Davus venit in templum. Davus ab Julio discedit. Iam Davus in templo est et medum quaerit. Davus venit in templo et quaerit medum. Davus medum in templo videt. Davus Davus videt medum. Davus. Oh, mede. Medus. Shh. Take, Dawe. Take, et skede. Davus. Oh, Dominus in opido est. Et te quaerit. Iratus est Dominus. Medus. Mene quaerit Dominus? Quaerit ne Dominus me? Cur me quaerit? Medus scit. Medus knows. He knows very well why the master is looking for him. Me ne quaerit Dominus? Cur me quaerit? Davus, quia numi eius in saculo tuo sunt. Tu habes numos. Dominus numos suos quaerit. Oh, Dominus quaerit medum, quoque Dominus quaerit numos. Medus. Iulius meus Dominus iam non est. Medus dicit, ego non sum servus. Iulius non est Dominus meus. Non sum servus. Neque numi eius in saculo meo sunt. Non est verum, est falsum. Dicit, numi Iulii non sunt in saculo meo. Davus. Oh, improviserve. Medus. Age, discede dawe, et take. Shh. Improbus est servus qui servum accusat. Meministis, servus qui accusat servum. Oh, domine. Oh, est malus servus. Servus qui accusat est malus servus. We read that before, right? The idea that if you tattle on your fellow slaves, it's against the code, right? So he tells him, you better shut up. Take. I'm reading into it. He just says, be quiet, but the idea is shut up, because you know, slaves who tattle on other slaves are bad.
Other slaves come back and beat them up.
Possibly. Okay, I'll read that again. Age, discede dawe et take. Shh. Improbus est servus, qui servum accusat. Davus tacet, neque ab eo discedit. Davus tacet, sed non discedit. Medus ex saculo suo sumit duos numos. Medus sumit saculum et e saculo sumit duo numos. What do you think he might be going to do before we read it? Oh, totally. I like the way you think, Bryn. You're like, I'm going to bribe him. Yes. Medus, ecce numi tui probe serve, ecce numi tui. Davus, non mei sunt numi, neque tui, sed Iulii sunt. Numi sunt mei, numi sunt tui, numi sunt Iulii. Davus numos non sumit. He's not bribable. Et solus discedit ex templo. In foro, Iulius davum interrogat. Est ne medus in templo? Davus tacet. Iulius, responde dawe, in templo ne est servus meus? Davus respondet. In templo est servus tuus nullus. Nullus servus est in templo. Merus servus tuus iam non est. Est verum, fortasse, medus dicit, ego non sum servus Julii. Itaque, Davus dicit, tuus servus non est in templo, medus non est servus tuus. You see, Medus said, I'm not his slave anymore. So Davus can kind of truthfully say, none of your slaves is in the temple. No slave of yours is in the temple. Because Medus said, I'm not his slave anymore. Fortasse est verum, fortasse est falsum. Davus non volt, he doesn't want accusare servum. Tacet. Julius, qui prima tantum verba Davi audit. Julius audit prima verba, audit, in templo est servus tuus nullus. Non audit, medus servus tuus iam non est. Non audit. Ex opido discedit sine medo. Medus non est cum Julio. Medus sine domino ex opido discedit. Ubi venit medus? Nescimus. Ubi, I'm going to ask you guys some questions. Ubi est Julius in fabula. Ubi est Julius. You can tell me in English if you want to. If you can figure out what I'm asking you in Latin, I'm totally fine with you telling me in English. Ubi est. In foro est. Bene. Cur Julius est in foro, in opido. Cur est. Quaerit medum. Bene. Ubi est medus? In templo est. Est alii servi in templo? Vel est medus solus? Solus est in templo. Bene. Est solus. et medus dicit et audit verba. Mea. Oh no. Quid est? Echoes. Bene.
Creep them out. That would creep me out if I just stole a bunch of my past.
And you thought somebody was spying on you, and yeah, that could be a little creepy. This is a harder one. Videtne Davus medum. Videtne Davus medum? Ita. Videtne. Do we remember? They did it a couple of times in this story. This is a good time to remind you of this. When I said this sentence, videtne Davus medum. Do we remember why this is here? This is a really good thing to mention. And they used it several times in here. In fact, look online. Oh, this doesn't have line numbers, does it? It's on page 15. And it's Medus when he says, Mene quaerit Dominus. And there it is again. And so the question is, Dominus quaerit me? And the question is, Davus videt medum? But it has this weird nay. Does anybody remember why? What are you thinking?
Is it like you did see him, but like you're asking still?
I think you're thinking of something else. This just means it's a question. If you stick it on the first word in the sentence, it's now a question. And then you can just ignore it. It asks a question. Let's see, I think we found it another. Oh, towards the end, when Julius says, responde Dawe in templone esse meus. And here they did it again. In templone, well, it just means it's a question. They never stick it on in, or, on a preposition. Now, this is kind of weird. We had this, and then I asked you this question. Videtne Davus medum. Does it matter in Latin? Think about this. Does it matter what order the words come in?
Nope.
No, it totally doesn't matter at all, which is weird for us because we really rely. Remember, the boy bit the dog and the dog bit the boy. We really rely on the fact that the words come in a certain order, and they just don't. Because no matter what I do, this is going to be the subject and this is going to be the direct object because it's got those endings. So usually they put the verb first when they ask a question and they put ne on the end, but they don't have to. In this case, they put the word me first because it's emphasis. Me? The master is looking for me? And so it emphasizes, why is he not looking for someone else? Why is he looking for me? Look what's being emphasized here. Is he in the temple? That's what he wants to know. Is that where he is? Is he in the temple? So they put it first. Sometimes they do that just for emphasis. We can do that a little bit in English, but we can't scramble our words indefinitely in English or we just talk gibberish, right? It doesn't make any sense at all. But so, for example, if someone said, it would be a little like, you sound a little like Yoda, but if somebody said, where did you go on vacation? If you wanted to emphasize the place you went, you might say, to the Grand Canyon we went on vacation. We probably wouldn't do that, but you see it would be like the answer to the where. But if I started we went to the Grand Canyon, I don't know where you went, and it would emphasize the we. What were you going to say, Bryn?
Did the Romans have the exclamation marks, like the question marks?
Oh, what a good question. The question is, do they have punctuation marks? This is going to blow your minds, and it makes me feel a little ill just thinking about it. They had no punctuation whatsoever. They had no spaces between words often, and everything was in capital letters. Not in medieval times, but if you look on a temple, like Roman ruins, and you look on the inscription, it's just a bunch of capital letters in a row.
Like that's just put together?
Yeah.
And just jam it all together?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And apparently your mind can be trained to know where to split. I do not know. I know about they did do caps a lot, and I don't think punctuation definitely wasn't a thing. Word spacing wasn't a thing. And this is why, I'll give the little mom speech now, just very briefly. This is why I hate it that people are not using punctuation. Like, people text, and it took us thousands of years to develop punctuation. Do you really want to go back to that? Because that's where we're headed. That's where we're headed. Every time people write something down and they don't punctuate it, or they just run the words together. They don't capitalize the beginning of the sentence. They don't capitalize proper nouns. Great. That's where we're headed. Is that really the world you want to return to? Because it took us a long time to escape from that world and develop this. I don't want to return to that world. I don't feel like you do either. But anyway, that's when you see a word that doesn't look familiar to you because it has nay on the end. It's always going to be in the beginning of the sentence or very close to the beginning. That's what's going on. Just ignore the nay. The rest of the word is the important part of the word. And it's just saying to you, I'm asking a question. Here's what I think you were thinking of, Anne. Sometimes we have none. We've met none. Let's just take this all away. Actually, I think we met one of these, not nune, but the other one. We met. Does anybody see where we saw a num? Did we see the word num? N-U-M? I don't think we did. I'm not going to saddle you with it if it's not in here. Okay. Plura rogata. More questions. Davus videt. Davus quairit medum et videt medum. Et dicit ne medus. Ik to skrimi hi. Dicit ne davus. Medus est in templo. Dicit ne? Domine, medus est in templo. Dicit ne medus? Hike? Did medus say, Davus, did Davus say, medus is in the temple? No. No. Kur. Because of the slave code, exactly, because slaves don't tattle on slaves, even thief slaves, apparently, which I don't know if I approve of, frankly. Maybe he should. Bene. Let's look at the very last sentence. Can you see the very, very final sentence? Medus sine domino ex templo, ex opido, sorry. Ex opido discedit. What is the subject of this sentence? Who's doing something? Medus. What's he doing? He's leaving, discedit. What are these things? Sine domino, ex opido. What do we call those in English? See, I feel like next year I should just do like an English grammar class. You know what I mean? Diagram sentences and stuff, because.
I hate diagramming sentences.
But it really makes you know what everything's doing. I didn't actually grow up diagramming sentences, but I can tell you what everything. I never went to a school that did that, but I can tell you what everything's doing. What do we call those? Can you tell me what ex opido means in English?
Is it exit down?
Yeah, out of the town. Out of the town. Remember,
Prepositional phrase?
it is sine domino. Dominus non ad est. Sine domino. What does this mean? Without the master. Medus, without the master, out of the town, leaves. Prepositional phrases.
Probably just say medus to scare
Yeah. Because we know from the rest of the story, there's no way he's going to go to Julius and say, here I am. I have your money. No. And so look what we have here. Remember these prepositions? Take the ablative. And here we have the ending opido, domino, and here it is. This is the domino ending, because dominus is one of these words. This is the opido ending, because oppidum is one of these words. Does that make sense? All right. Here's what I want you to do this week. And we have some time left, so I'm going to grab the exercitia, and I'm just going to look at some, and I'm going to assume, I'm so sorry, ladies, I'm going to assume you actually made at least one mistake. Forgive me for making that assumption. And so I'm just going to kind of burn through until you made a mistake, and we're going to work through some of them together. But if you do, please, please, if you have your exercise sheet at home, take a picture of it and send it to me, or scan, if you have a scanner, and scan it as soon as possible. And that way I can have time to go over them, and I can see the things that we should target, okay? See, that's my problem. I have very little leverage, as they say, over you. It's like I already told you I wouldn't beat you, and I'm not going to yell at you, and like what can I can't really do anything to you. Okay, here's what I have for you. And Grace and Christian, I will email this to you. If I don't, please email me and ask for it. I made these up. These are questions about Colloquium 5. They're simple questions. Okay, I think they're simple questions. There is nothing in these questions that you cannot figure out, or you cannot look back. You know these sheets that I give you that have the word forms and everything that hopefully you're collecting? There's nothing you can't figure out. I've asked you 8 questions in Latin about this story. Your job this week is to read Colloquium 5. Are you with me, ladies? Read Colloquium 5 as many times as you possibly can. Like if you read it every day, that'd be awesome. I want you to answer these questions. If you can answer them in Latin, that'd be great. If you answer them in English, but you understood what the question was, that's great too. And then down here, I have try writing the following in Latin. I am telling you guys this. Some of these sentences you can almost copy straight out of Colloquium 5. I mean, they're not brain-busting, extremely creative questions. Hello. Are you looking for a way through? So please do this. Hey, bring it back next week. Please, 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 1,000 times, please. Do it and bring it back so I can know.
Don't bring it back.
I'm going to, I don't know what I'm going to do. Oh, that's the best one I ever did.
I think it's because you have an empty table.
Maybe I get nervous when everybody's watching. Okay. I'm giving you, thank you so much for blaming it on everything except my skill. I appreciate that. Okay, are there 4 of them there, I think? Why do I have 3 more? Oh, one of them was mine. One of them was mine.
Well, no, we're missing 3 people. We're missing Luke.
Oh, we're missing Luke. Oh, I'm sorry, Sue. You, Luke, too. I forgot about you, Luke. So sorry. Forgive me. Agnoske mihi. So, okay, let's take a look at, we'll put Bryn and Ann on the chopping block here, so to speak. Yeah. So just answer the questions and then write those in Latin. I don't know that I gave you room on there. You can do them on the back. You can just staple another piece of paper. I don't care how you do it. If you want to squeeze it in there, like there's probably, those sentences aren't going to be very many words. You probably have room next to each one. It depends on how big your writing is. But do it and bring it back, and this will help me very, very much. Like I said, give me these as soon as possible so that I can know. But for that time being, Ann and Bren will have to be our, oh, see, here's the problem. Ann did really, really good.
Yeah, Ann did horrible. Good job, Ann.
No, I haven't looked at Bryn's yet. I wasn't implying anything. Wow. Oh, so I just had you do those. So I just had you do 3 of them, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, okay. Oh, and Bryn even did some of exercise 2. She's an overachiever. Okay, let me do this. Let's just look at the first one and talk a little bit about why the endings are what they are. But first, let me say this. And so a student called me yesterday in case the student wants to remain nameless, and had a question about 3 and 7. And the student said, well, how do I know if it's habitat or habitet or habitit? Or how do I know if it's imperat, imperet, imperit? And I asked the student, first of all, do you understand that one column, the column that ends in at, et, or eat, well, actually, let me ask you guys. And we have a column that ends in ant. These are our possible endings that they gave us. What's the difference between the two columns? Why would I pick one in this column instead of one in that one? Yes? Singular. This means he, she, or it did it. And this means they did it. So this always has a singular subject and this always has a plural. So that's our first, that's how we narrow it down, right? If I say servus habit and servi habit, which one of those is plural? The top one or two? Two. So I have to choose a plural ending, right? And this one is singular, so I have to choose a singular ending. But the second part of the problem is, well, which one? Is it habitat, habitat, or habitit? And that, I told the student, is a practice thing. This is why we read it repeatedly. Because eventually, you will read the word habitat so many times, and habitant, it's like what Christian says when he's here, like, it sounds right. And I told him sometimes that is the correct answer. It sounds better than habitat. However, widet sounds right, but widat doesn't sound right. Oh, something wrong there. And so, so that's a practice thing. But this is the important thing to know, right? That if the subject is singular, it has a T. If the subject is plural, it has an NT. Does everybody follow that? Is everybody good with that? Okay, awesome. Okay, so I did actually see something. I thought I saw something.
I got them all right. I'm going to be like, that's going to be incredible.
I did, actually there are a few of the verb ones, but it's kind of the problem that I just mentioned. It's a practice thing. Oh, and by the way, just a second, Bryn, let me say this before I forget. It's not cheating to look back in the book. This isn't a closed book exam or something like that, right? If you don't know whether it's widat, widet, or widit, look back in the book. Find somewhere where they say it and fill in the right answer. It's fine. You know what, guys? The more Latin you have in front of your minds and going in front of your eyes and going in your minds, the better. It's okay to look back in the book. Okay. What do I want to look at? Let's.
Exercise 7.
Exercise 7, is that the one that was the worst one? Okay. Let's take a look at the first one. It says, Julia ab Amelia disged pueri non disged. And here are our choices. We have a or at. We have ate and ant. That's one group of choices. We have and ete, et and ent. We have and eat, ite and unt. And we have e and eat, ite and iunt. That's a lot of choices. Can somebody tell me what the top row of each of these is? These two choices, these two choices, these two choices, and these two choices. What are those endings for?
I just forgot.
That's okay. They're not both singular. Actually, these are all singular and these are all plural. But the top row on each of these is something special. Let me use it. Discipuli, takete, takete.
All of them?
Wait, what? Disquede, Julia. Don't, though. Woka, wokate magistram.
It's one person and then a lot of people?
But what am I doing in every one of those cases? What am I?
You're telling us?
I'm telling you something to do. I'm giving you a command. These are commands. Woka, Markum. Or wokate, all of you, wokate Markum. No, Marcus non ad est, Marcus ab est. Qui est Marcus? Nescio. These are commands, and the other ones are the normal endings when it's not a command. So in exercise 7, they're asking you, is this a command or not? Now, let's take a look at this. Does this seem like anybody's telling anybody to do anything? Do you see a word like imperat or dicit? Is somebody telling someone to do something? Who's doing something in this part, the first part? Let's just look at the first sentence. Who's doing something? Julia. What she seem to be doing? You can tell me in English. Discedit. She's leaving. Is she telling someone to leave? No. So, discedit. Julia ab Emilia, discedit. Pueri, non. Well, discedit, disced, unt. Cur. Why is this one eat and that one's unt?
Because one's singular and one's plural.
Because only Julia's doing it? The boys are doing it. And if I looked at my little chart, now I know it's a problem because discedit could be discediunt or discedunt. That's a practice thing. You'll know the difference later. If you wrote discediunt here, I'm like, you know what? You were on the right track. Good for you. Good for you. You were on the right track. It wasn't totally right, but it was close. And that would be okay. All right? So if you want to go back, I'm going to go ahead and close it down because technically in any minute people are going to come in. I'm going to close down the video. But if you want to look over your sheets before you send them to me, or just send me what you got. All right? But I suspect, instead of moving ahead to chapter 6, I suspect maybe a couple of really good weeks of solidifying what we've done would be in order. So don't panic or anything, but read Colloquium 5 as many times as possible. Do the sheet, and please bring it back with you. I'm relying on these sheets to know what you guys know and what I need to explain better. Or we just need more practice at. That gives me a lot of information. All right.